Oi, bartender, give me something to wake me up and then fuck me up. That's my Kate Moss impression. Was it on the money? Not even close? No? Is she more posh? And excuse me, bartender, could you give me something that will wake me up and then fuck me up? Would that be more appropriate for a Kate? What accent she has at the moment is fluid. So today on How to Drink, we're tackling the Espresso Martini. And as you can see here, I've got my espresso machine. But I don't want you to be dissuaded. I don't want you to think that we're only doing this drink in a way that requires you to have an espresso machine. I'm actually gonna make it two different ways. We're gonna do Dick Bradsell's original. We're also gonna make Jeff Morgenthaler's version, and that one involves the use of a cold brew concentrate. The Espresso Martini was invented by London bartender Dick Bradsell in the late 80s. He always said that it was invented
when a young model who's now famous came in and said, "Can you make me a drink that will wake me up and then me up?"
Everywhere online I'm looking seems to be reporting that it was Kate Moss. He was not one to kiss and tell, so I don't know where that information comes from. It does seem to be that everybody is settled on Kate Moss. Maybe it's Kate Moss, I don't know. Dick Bradsell gets a lot of credit for being kind of one of the godfathers or forerunners of like the cocktail reviver of the early 2000s. Not that he was directly involved, but in the drinks, even in the 80s, that he was making in a time when everybody was making Alabama Slammers and Bahama Mamas and like bad drinks. He was making stripped down drinks that were focused on balance and fundamentals. And even here in the Espresso Martini, you will find that that is the case. This is a great drink. We're going to need to make some espresso. And to do that, I gotta heat up my machine. So while that's heating up, I wanna talk a little bit about coffee liqueur. The granddaddy of coffee liqueurs is Kahlua, and I'm gonna have a little taste of that here. There are other coffee liqueurs on the market. I think that most people would agree that Kahlua and Tia Maria are relatively interchangeable. There's one bottle that I really love, actually, the Mr. Black cold brew coffee. And you're gonna see a lot of people talking about this lately because this stuff's really kind of taken the world by storm. It's wonderful shit. And I just want to point out the differences. The Kahlua is more clear. The Mr. Black is a little cloudier, more like real coffee. Maybe it's a little bit less filtered, the Kahlua. It is coffee syrup, honestly. I mean, it's alcoholic, you get a little bit of that, but it really just tastes like a coffee syrup. And the Mr. Black, concentrated black coffee flavors and alcohol. I don't think there's any sugar in this. If there is, it's minimal. It's not to the point where it tastes sweet. It would just be there to kind of marry flavors. So that's my point. I would say that unless it specifies otherwise, a drink that calls for coffee liqueur is probably built around Kahlua, and that Kahlua is pretty sweet. So if you're going to use something other than Kahlua, that's a great idea. Nothing wrong with that. I would just add back that sweetness. I have to make my own version of The More You Know.
Cue the music and that star thing.
The more you drink. Talk about espresso first off. This is not really an episode about espresso, but it's hard to make espresso without explaining what espresso is. Espresso comes from the pressure. It's not espresso. It's not real fast. It's espresso. Real pressured, high pressure. And so to make espresso, what you really need is a pump capable of pushing to a minimum of 8 bars or 8 atmospheres of pressure. This is a Breville Barista Express. I did a ton of research before buying this thing. I got it on Amazon for actually less than 500 bucks. It is 15 bar pump with a thermo block, so it's not a double boiler. I'd love a double boiler for those of you who know what that means. I love the way that the drip tray works. I love that there's a secret drawer back here for your tools and cleaning supplies. The fact that it includes a perfectly serviceable espresso grinder is phenomenal. If I was gonna spend more for an espresso machine to get a better feature set, I would have to probably spend a lot more. I'd have to go to like $1,500, and at that point, I'm probably gonna buy a Rocket Departamento and a separate grinder as opposed to this. This thing is, until you're gonna spend a big chunk of change. And yes, of course, under $500 for a coffee maker is crazy. But if you're into espresso, it's not. So the mechanics of how espresso is made is that you've got a pump in here and a PID temperature controller and all that stuff. So your water gets hot, and then your water is pumped by a mechanical pump. It's not like it gets hot and then it boils into the coffee or something like that. As a matter of fact, if it's boiling, it's too hot. You put your coffee grinds into this little guy, the portafilter. The water hits that, and then the portafilter, the coffee that's in there, is the resistance. How you grind your coffee, how fine and how coarse it is, and how tightly packed it is, and how large your dose is, that's the resistor, if you want to use it in that term, on the pump that controls how much pressure the water behind it is under. And getting that grind just right is what determines whether or not you've got good espresso or bitter or sour espresso. The little mocha pot that you put on the stove, everybody calls that an espresso maker. It can't make espresso. Nothing that is driven by the pressure of boiling water, of steam, is going to be able to make espresso. It can't. I am by far and away not an expert on espresso. There are phenomenal channels about espresso. I really like Gail at the Seattle Coffee. And then that other fella whose name is escaping me at the moment, but he's great. I really like his videos. I'm gonna put a link to him. I might even include a little clip of him. He's great. Look at him go. Look at that fella go. Boy, he knows what he's doing with espresso. That guy really, he is great. Honestly, and they both have videos on this exact machine, so they help me a lot with tuning this out, so thank you guys. So the first version of this that I wanna make is Dick Bradsell's version. My portafilter is really hot right now, which is great. The only thing I don't love about this is that it does seem to hold on to some water, so I shake it out. You want it to be nice and dry. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna dose, switch that to double, put my dose in. I am going to distribute my coffee. I wanna make sure that you have it, you know, somewhat well balanced across. This is the tamper, comes on a little magnetic release there, it's great. And I wanna press this in to form a puck. I'm actually gonna let this sit. I'm not really ready to brew just yet. I'm gonna set it there while I do the other parts of the drink. Could I have locked it into the portafilter holder here to make the coffee? Yes, why didn't I do that? Well, one, it's already hot, it's gonna stay hot, it's gonna be fine. If you put it in here, it's gonna come in contact with this hot metal, and if it sits there, it will mess up your coffee, it'll burn it. You don't wanna do that. As a matter of fact, you wanna put it in and immediately hit brew. Apparently, if you don't do that, if you don't immediately hit brew, you lose points in world coffee competitions. And I'm in a world coffee competition and I don't want to lose any points. So I want a ½ ounce of simple syrup. I should have done this before I ground my beans, but I got ahead of myself. I started looking, I want to make that coffee, you know? I want to drink that coffee. Think about that coffee. I want a ½ ounce of coffee liqueur. I'm going to use the Mr. Black. Now, Dick Bradsell's does call for some simple syrup and Kahlua. That's a fine way to do it. The combination of both, it's gonna make very sweet. Maybe more sweet than I want it to be. 1980s, makes sense, you know. I think that going with a little bit drier coffee, especially if we're gonna keep that simple syrup, not a bad choice. And I want 2 ounces of vodka. In this case, pretty standard, 80 proof, absolute. Absolutely. I'm gonna set that aside now. Okay, we're good to go. Still very hot. Put this guy in, I'm gonna hit brew, dump this, put that under, and then I'm gonna time it, starting when I see the pressure start to come up. That's the pre-infusion. Boom, brewing. So we're looking for between 20 and 30 seconds. Oh, perfect, that's good. Hopefully that should be a good shot. And I wanna take that and place that into my drink. Boom. We'll shake that up. And you might be saying, oh, why does it matter if your espresso is fresh? There's a lot of active compounds in it that are changing and evolving over time. If we let it age, it's gonna oxidize and the flavor is gonna change dramatically. I have this double-walled martini glass, which I think is way better than a regular martini glass. Garnish that with 3 espresso beans. And that is our first espresso martini. This is the Dick Bradsell version. Beautiful, right? Great color, real gradation with a nice frothy head. It's delicious. It's delicious. The coffee is front and center. I mean, it just tastes like a nice cold coffee. If you like coffee, I think you will have a hard time disliking this. It's not like creamy or overly sweet either. Switching for the Mr. Black really toned down the sweetness. I think if we went with the Kahlua, this would be kind of cloying. And the whole thing, this is like this dark chocolate bitterness, but not like mere mouth pucker bitters, but like dark chocolate bitter. At 96% cacao chocolate bar, and cold and perfect, and also, you know, packed with caffeine and vodka. If you really think about it, Dick Bradsell came up with this on a request for a drink that would wake me up and fuck me up. And to look at your, I have that machine, and I have this coffee liqueur, and I have some vodka. To put those things together on the spot, that requires an incredible stroke of genius, to be honest. In response to that, I would be lost, you know, without having already known that an espresso martini was a thing you could create. I would never come up with it. It's delicious. Is it very sophisticated or complicated or spirit forward? No. It's just a very easy to drink coffee martini. It's great. So now we're gonna move on to a version made without a machine. This recipe comes from Jeffrey Morgenthaler, phenomenal bartender, a guy that knows what he's doing. And we're gonna use some cold brew concentrate. Our cold brew concentrate, you can of course make any concentrated cold brew you want. You can just make very strong cold brew. For a couple of reasons, we happen to be using Grady's cold brew iced coffee bean bags here. These are a shortcut to it. Why are we using this? Because I happened to mention to a person who helps me on the show that I need some cold brew concentrate. She said, I have that. And this is what we have. It's equal parts, 1 ounce of our cold brew concentrate. As I spill it everywhere, just like slopping it around. Just sloppy it. I've been drinking all day. You gotta sober me up with a coffee espresso martini. We want 1 ounce of coffee liqueur, specifically Kahlua in this case. We want 1 ounce of Stoli 100 proof, Stolichnaya. No, it's Stolichnaya. Stolichnaya. I don't know. Stoli. 100 proof Stoli, 1 ounce. And then the final ingredient is actually a twist of lemon peel, just expressed into the tin. There are some places where when you have an espresso, it would be served with a peel of lemon in it. I think that this is sort of a nod to that. We're gonna shake it up. 1 big, 1 cracked. I'm just noticing the Stoli 100 proof says, made with certified alpha grade spirit. What the hell does that mean? Certified alpha grade, okay. Double strain this into a glass. I'm going with this one to mix it up. It is, of course, a regulation rule that we must garnish with 3 beans. That's how you make an espresso martini. Without 3 beans, I don't know if it even counts. All right, so this is Jeffrey Morgenthaler's Espresso Martini. Ooh, I like that a lot. Ooh. Uh-oh. I gotta say, I've never had that before. I like this better than that. I think the lemon really adds something special to that. That is cool. That is great. It's very desserty. It's sweet, which is crazy because that's how sweet Kahlua is. There's no sugar added to that. Yet this is sweeter than this, which has sugar added to it. I like them both so much. It's tough to pick. I think that the lemon, though, really adds something tough to put your finger on in this. This is something really cool. That combination of the coffee liqueur and the coffee cold brew and the lemon is so delicious. That is phenomenal. Most people, from my reading, really love the Dick Bradsell original. And maybe this should be sweeter. Maybe I undersweetened in this particular case because I didn't add simple and Kahlua. But boy, considering how sweet the Kahlua is on its own, it's sweet enough to be called a dessert drink for sure. I think it's phenomenal. This is super delicious. The cold brew Jeffrey Morgenthaler version is excellent. I should point out too, I am not the first guy to make a YouTube video about a espresso martini. And so today we made the espresso martini 2 ways. One version that involves an expensive espresso machine. I cannot say that. One version that involves a lot of apparatus to make proper espresso, and another version that involves just cold brew. And I gotta tell you, between the two, I would never send either of these back. I think they're both phenomenal drinks. I think that this one has a little bit more character in it. To that end, I also think that if you threw a twist of lemon peel into this, it would be probably also very cool. I think I love that. I don't think I love it. I do. I'm on Twitter at How to Drink. I'm on Instagram at How to Drink, and I am on Patreon at patreon.com/howtodrink. I'm on Twitch at twitch.tv/GregFromHTD. If you are interested in seeing me do different kinds of things, video games, reading books, talking the news, interviewing people, sleeping, it's over there. And if you miss it, it'll be on my second YouTube channel, H2D2. All my barware is provided by Barfly Mixology gear. If you want to use any of the tools I'm using on the show, you'll find an affiliate link in my pinned comment below and also in the video description. Subscribe, like, and comment. That's what I'm supposed to tell you to do. Feels a little disingenuous. I feel like if you got something to say, you're gonna say it. I know you, you know me. We see each other. We're on the same level. We're like pals, you know, simpatico. I get it, you get it, we get it, we're together. Wake me up and fuck me up. That could have been a Spice Girls song, maybe. What do you think? You think that could have been a song from the Spice Girls? I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. What I really, really want is a drink that'll wake me up and fuck me up.